I'm Rolene Marks. Welcome to Modiin and Beyond. Join me every Sunday between 3 and 4 on Radio Modiin as we take a look at what's happening in Modiin, Israel, and beyond. Shavua Tov, everybody. Welcome to Modiin and Beyond with me, Rolene Marks, where we take a look at what's going on in Modiin, in Israel, and beyond. Now, just before we get into the show, some news for you guys. We will be moving to 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, starting from the week of the 20th of November. So for the 22nd of November, join me at 10 a.m. every Tuesday morning as we go Modiin and beyond. Now, I know many of us in Modiin come from countries that are part of the Commonwealth. Today is Remembrance Sunday. I just want to take a minute just to pay tribute to the men and women of the armed forces who have sacrificed so much so that we can live our lives in freedom. Today is a day of remembrance and also gratitude for all that they did so that we could enjoy the democratic freedoms that we have today. Now, coming up on today's show, sitting next to me is the lovely Justine Friedman, our resident mindset coach and clinical dietitian. We're going to be talking about a subject very, very important to so many of us, and that is looking at our lifestyle over 40, especially us women. As things start to change, we're going to dive into that. We're going to be talking to Adam Levick. He's the co-editor of Camera UK. We're going to be discussing critical race theory, anti-Semitism, and all the things that are extremely topical for us at the moment. And of course, ending the show with our resident entertainment guru, Yael Kina. But first, a big welcome to Justine.
Thank you so much, Rolene. I love being with you on the show.
Well, we love having you. Now, Justine, so many of us say that once you turn 40, it's all downhill from there. We turn 40, and whether you are a woman or a man, a lot of things start to change. Now, you're busy getting ready to birth a major project, which we are very excited to hear about. It's something that our residents of Modiin and beyond are certainly going to benefit with. But when we hit 40, we have a greater clarity of who we are, but then things start to change and the mind literally boggles. Literally boggles. So tell us about what happens when we turn 40.
Okay, so I'm going to specifically address women in this equation, not to exclude men. However, the program that I am launching at the end of the month is specifically focused on women over 40, and there's a reason for this. So in your 20s and 30s as women, if you feel like you've gained a little bit of weight, you're not feeling very healthy, it's so much easier. I don't always say it's very easy, but it's so much easier to restrict your diet a little bit, cut out the junk, exercise a little bit more, and shed the extra kilos that may have accumulated due to a number of different reasons. However, as you approach 40, what happens is that you have a lot of hormone shifts and changes in your body. And it's very interesting to me that when I studied dietetics, there was no nutrition component that was taught to us about what happens to women from the time after they've weaned their babies until they are geriatrics. Literally, there was nothing mentioned about hormone changes during perimenopause and menopause. And as I hit the 40s and have started experiencing these changes, I started realizing that the women that I've been working with all of these years weren't just coming to me complaining that they couldn't lose weight for no reason. There was a very specific reason behind it. And what happens to your hormones over 40, and even sometimes from your mid-30s, is that your estrogen, which is your reproductive hormone that keeps you feeling good about yourself and positive and helps you to lose weight and keeps your muscle tone and stabilizes mood, it varies over the course of a month when we have our menstrual cycle, but as you enter these years of perimenopause, estrogen starts declining. So we get a lot of changes that are happening into the body, and the main complaint that women are coming to me with is that they have gained weight, even if they've done nothing to change what they are eating. They're eating exactly what they used to, or the weight has crept up over the years and now they're trying to lose weight and they've tried strict dieting and strict exercising, and not only are they not losing weight, but sometimes they're even continuing to gain weight.
Because that's a big thing. You know, when you hit your 40s, women often say that's an age where we really start to accept our bodies, and then you wake up one day and everything feels tighter and nothing fits, and all that hard work that you put into, you know, accepting yourself, making peace with your body, that just falls away. And it doesn't just have an impact on your physical appearance, but your emotional and your psychological self as well. So, you know, what advice would you give, especially for women who are thinking, you know what, I am doing everything right. I'm exercising, I'm upping my cardio, I'm eating responsibly, and everything is just changing and I feel out of control.
Okay, so the out of control is a very common complaint that people come to me with. And in fact, I'm running a free live event this week in an exclusive Facebook group. I can share the link with you, specifically talking to how to take back control of eating and reduce the guilt that so many women have with food. So traditionally, the feeling of needing to be in control, which seems to slip and slide over the age of 40, where you've tried so many things and it's still not getting you the results, we need to reframe this and we need to look at it in a different way. And I feel strongly that when you understand the changes that your body is going through and how you have to nourish your body differently over the age of 40 through working with somebody who's experienced in this field, because if you just go on a normal restrictive diet, listen to the dieting messages in the media, you can try many different things which may not be specific to your unique needs. When you learn about how estrogen starts fluctuating, when you learn about how cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone, can play havoc in our body over the age of 40, and how important it becomes not only with what you eat and how you eat, but how you manage your stress levels and how you apply mindset techniques and tools that also altogether create a holistic approach to be able to allow you to realign, to feel more at peace within yourself again, to come back to feeling like your body's yours. Because I think so many women feel like over the age of 40, I don't even know who I am anymore. My body doesn't feel like mine. I don't feel in control. So many of the pillars that I have created within my program, there are 3 pillars to the program, address all of these different areas in order for women to start to feel that they can nourish themselves and understand how to nourish themselves again.
Well, I think one of the big issues here is that there is a stigma around menopause. It's not spoken about. You know, once you hit a certain age, you're deemed, you know, past your sell-by date and shoved into a cupboard, and the conversation ceases there. And now it looks like women are starting to have those very important conversations about menopause and how it affects us. As you say, when you're in your 40s and sometimes even in your 30s, you start to head into perimenopause and things start to change. So let's talk about these 3 pillars that you use to holistically approach the issue.
So the 3 pillars are, the first one is addressing your body and nutrition, as well as unlearning all of the dieting mindset and dieting loop that so many women are trapped in. We think that that's the only way, and it creates such negative associations with food and food rules that before we can learn how to properly nourish our body, we need to unlearn what we have believed to be true. So the first part of the program is about unlearning those dieting rules and mindset, understanding why it does no longer support you, why even for women under the age of 40, it's not necessarily the right approach either. We also, I take them through understanding hormone shifts and changes and what foods to eat in response to how their body is feeling, to become more mindful in their approach to eating, not relying on an external portion size to be dictated to them, but rather, how's my body feeling today? Do I need more energy? Do I need a little bit less energy? And we go through a whole lot of tools and practices with that, as well as what is the best food for your mood. Because in this period of life, besides the stress and the busyness of our lives, we are worrying about children, husbands. Many women are also dealing with elderly parents. So it's like the sandwich generation that we find ourselves in. And we can become so much more irritable and moody. And there is a direct correlation between what food we eat that supports a better mood. So that is the first pillar. The second pillar is the mindset tools and the habits that I teach, which are what I've created over the years of working and working with women. And these I practice in my own life, knowing how to alleviate the self-sabotage that is so often felt, the overwhelm and the frustration that so many women feel, how to overcome obstacles of time constraints, not always having the right food around, eating in a way that may be in response to emotions, how to deal with emotional eating on a much, much better level. So there are many different aspects to this. There are a whole lot of tools that I have put together. And this course in particular, this program is a beginner program which gets them going on the first level. And then we can always continue in the follow-up programs where they really are able to learn even further tools and techniques which are very practical and easy to implement. And then the third pillar, which I found so important, and this is what allows for a holistic approach, is being able to connect within. I strongly believe that the power that we have as women and the inner power that we have, we need to utilize. And we are so often used to suppressing what that voice is telling us, call it the voice of our essence or our soul, or more in line with a more spiritual aspect of life. And those three pillars, when combined together, bring the best results.
Because we do tend to reach for the bag of chips and the naughty food when we are feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And the role that hormones play in this, do you think that women should have their hormone levels checked regularly, and especially before, starting a program like this?
So there may be value to it. However, if you are in perimenopause, sometimes the hormone levels don't always show up as being out of balance. And only closer to menopause can you start to see the shifts and changes and the severe drop in estrogen levels and the changes between the balances of progesterone and estrogen. However, I do think that it's worthwhile having a battery of tests done. Unfortunately, not all of the family doctors are willing to run those tests because they don't feel that they're going to take the information from there and actually apply it. There's no pill to take for perimenopause. So I do have a list of what I would suggest to have done, not just to have random blood results, like bloods done, but literally to look at specific tests depending on the person as well. I would tell you perhaps something very different to somebody else who would come to me. So broad things that we would need to look at is things like thyroid function, glucose levels, because as we age, our ability to moderate glucose in our body also shifts and changes. And this is one of the reasons why women over 40 find that the weight that they're putting on is in their middle, because together with a lower estrogen and a higher cortisol level, which are all words I'm throwing out there, is something called insulin resistance. And when we are more insulin resistant, our weight tends to be more stubborn in coming off, and it's very easy to put on weight over the mid area.
Now, what foods should we be eating and what foods should we be avoiding that might enhance our moods or, in the inverse, wreak havoc on our bodies and our hormones?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I get asked that a lot. So the most important thing I think I can say is that the closer a food is to their most natural state of being, the better it will be for you. Having said that, foods that are high in refined sugars and our processed foods are much harder for the body to utilize, and specifically over the age of 40, if we are attacking the chips or the chocolate or all of those kind of things when our mood is down, when we are more irritable, when our energy levels drop, what that does is it spikes our blood sugar level, which increases our insulin, which makes the weight loss even harder to achieve. The balance of a wholesome diet over the age of 40 does not mean that we have to eliminate carbohydrates altogether, but it's which carbohydrates to eat and how to include them that becomes important.
Because that's a common myth. You know, we're hit with so many different kinds of diet choices. High protein, low carbs, no fats, banting. I mean, I don't really know is that a thing here? I don't know. No, it's a thing in South Africa where we come from. This diet, that diet, intermittent fasting, you know, which some people swear by. You know, we look at Jennifer Aniston, and we're going to be talking to our entertainment guru a little bit later about, you know, watching people age in Hollywood. We look at her and we think, oh wow, intermittent fasting, I too can look like that, but it might not work for us as individuals. So this is why the benefits of coming to speak to somebody like you who has a specific program that looks at the individual needs of the, can we say patient or the client, is so important. So for our listeners out there, and I'm sure there are many of you who just want to gain some control on your body, on your mind, your hormones, your stress levels, how do they get in touch with you?
So I think the easiest is either to Google me on Facebook, Justine Friedman, and I do have a personal page for my dietetics practice, but my website has also got a lot of information on, which is justinefriedman.com, and Friedman, which is spelled Friedman. So there's also a link there to learn more about the live event that I'm running this week. And within the next few days, the enrollment for my program will be open. So the program is more it's for a group of women as opposed to working one-on-one with me. So there are different avenues now to be able to access working with me, which could be one-on-one, which you can access through my website or through Facebook, as well as the group program, which will launch, please God, at the end of the month.
Which is hugely important, because one thing that we all need sometimes is a support system. And, you know, there's safety and support in numbers. Well, we're going to get you back on to talk about how the program is going, because I think this is a conversation that we really need to be having more of. We need to take the stigma out of aging, we need to embrace ourselves at all ages. Justine Friedman, a clinical dietitian and mindset mentor, our resident mindset mentor and clinical dietitian, thank you so much for coming into studio today. We're going to go for a short music break with Depeche Mode and Enjoy the Silence, and after that we're talking to Adam Levick about critical race theory. Radio Modiin. I'm Rolene Marks. This is Modiin and Beyond. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Adam Levick. He is the co-editor of Camera UK. We've got quite an important topic to talk about. You know, we've been for the last couple of months speaking a lot about anti-Semitism, its different manifestations. Now, Adam has recently given a speech to a gathering, to a conference at the United Kingdom, addressing a growing new phenomenon, critical race. Reach out, touch faith. And just to a change in what we see in the media throughout the world. So, Adam, first of all, welcome to Modiin and Beyond. And explain to us, what is critical race theory?
Thanks for having me on, Rolene. Critical race theory is an offshoot of critical legal studies, which was a school of critical theory that developed in the US in the 1970s, which claims that even civil rights laws of the 1960s and 70s, which were designed to combat discrimination largely against African Americans, were actually devised to maintain the status quo, thus thereby codifying its biases against marginalized groups. So CRT, being an offshoot of a relatively fringe legal theory, has taken that theory and has projected it upon all of American society, so that it would claim, CRT claims that racial biases are embedded in the fabric of American and Western life, in its laws, in its constitutions, in its economic system, and that it's so embedded that mere anti-racist civil rights legislation isn't sufficient, and that the only way to combat this racism, which is invisible to most people, is by what the author of the book How to Combat How to Become an Anti-Racist, a man by the name of Ibram X. Kendi, would describe in Orwellian terms anti-racist discrimination. That is, in order to achieve an anti-racist future, we must discriminate against those who have supposedly benefited from this racist system. That is, those who are considered whites, and in many cases, those that are considered whites are also Jews. So in kind of positing this extreme theory, which holds that racism is embedded in the fabric of American and Western life, it finds its victims on one side who are monolithically described as Black or people of color, and it finds its the oppressors as whites, or those considered to be white adjacent, or those who are considered in some way to have benefited from this white racist paradigm. And not surprisingly, Jews have been placed within this paradigm within the latter category, that is, as oppressors, or at the very least white adjacent, and in need of losing the protection against discrimination that they have enjoyed for a long time. So it's a very illiberal ideology, and it's one, though its proponents wouldn't talk specifically about Jews, it ends up having an anti-Semitic impact on Jews.
Well, what I found very interesting is that Jews are not homogenous. There is this perception that we are all white, Ashkenazi origin, all super wealthy, courtesy of Kanye and Kyrie Irving and the many others that trot out that really ugly stereotype. And that, when we look at the nation state of the Jewish people, Israel, it must also be a white, homogenous, colonialist state. And this is how we see it playing out on college campuses, in the media, with this new iteration that we have seen over the last couple of weeks. But the reality couldn't be more different. You know, all you have to do is visit Israel to see that we really are a tribe of brothers and sisters from various parts in the world. Why do you think that so many have latched on to critical race theory, specifically when it comes to Jews?
Well, people have latched onto it for different reasons, but let me answer that question in a couple ways. I mean, I think people have latched onto it because it provides a simple, neat, black and white understanding of why the world is unjust or why there are disparities in outcomes, right? And any theory which, kind of maintains this black and white, this easy to understand theory is going to be more appealing than a complex, multifaceted one, which takes into account variety of variables. So I think it's a simplicity. I think it works. But I think there's something else behind, and that is, like, I would say it's kind of adjacent to a lot of populist movements, right? Populists often require an enemy, right? They require someone who, if not for these people, then society would be prosperous and and successful. Populism provides simple solutions to complex problems, and populism also usually incites a very tribal us against them. So I think CRT, critical race theory, does all that. And I think also, one of the things that CRT does that I think is perhaps one of the most insidious attacks, it's an attack on merit. So you asked before about the fact that Israeli Jews and Jews in general are multi-ethnic, multiracial. 50% of Israeli Jews come from some sort of Mizrahi background. But I think that's almost besides the point, because I think within CRT is this radical critique of merit. A belief that if you succeed in a country where many people aren't successful, then you must have succeeded not based on your own hard work, not based on your own grit and determination and your personal traits, but you must have succeeded based on somehow benefiting from this unjust system, right? You game the system, you game the racist system towards your end. So I think if you were to mention to a critical race theorist the fact that Jews are multiracial, I think they would simply point to the fact that Jews are, generally speaking, successful in the diaspora and generally speaking successful in Israel, and conclude from that even if they're not white as such, they're white adjacent. That is, they're complicit in the white supremacist system. So I think at its core, it's an attack on merit, which any system which attacks merit and attacks success will inevitably attack Jews.
How do we combat this? Because it really is fomenting racial divisions, not just with Jews and non-Jews around the world, but it's really fomenting racism and division around the world. How do we combat this?
Well, the antithesis of critical race theory is liberalism. That is small L liberalism, right? The liberalism of individual rights as opposed to group rights, equality theory, legal reasoning, rationalism, neutral principles of constitutional law. I would argue that CRT is not only has an injurious impact on Jews, which is a good enough reason to combat it, but it's really an attack on Western liberal democracy. It's an attack on the very kind of country that we want to build, that the founding fathers of America embodied in the world's first constitutional democracy, the values that were embodied in Israel's Declaration of Independence, the values of the Enlightenment. I would argue that CRT is a counter-Enlightenment movement, is regressive. It takes us back. I think promotes racism, promotes the kind of tribalism and dissension that liberal democracy, with all of its problems, has successfully combated. So I think one way to combat CRT is by making it clear that it is the antithesis of the liberal democratic values that presumably most of us still cherish.
Now, you and I are very active on social media, dealing with combating anti-Semitism, and the more we say that ideologies like Zionism are extremely liberal, progressive ideologies, and that, you know, our values, the values that Israel holds, are, you know, emblematic of democracy, of liberal values, where we value people of all different ethnicities, where we value merit and achievement. I mean, we've greened the desert, we've really created something quite extraordinary, and yet we seem to be the most popular target. It's really just absolutely extraordinary. So for parents who are sending their kids to university campuses, and I know your organization is very, very active in helping to deal with some of the anti-Semitism, the teaching of CRT on campuses around the world. How do we prepare the next generation of young Jewish or Zionist students to be able to deal with some of the accusations that they're going to have to deal with?
I think one of the strongest vaccines against the harm done to Jewish students on college campuses in the West, and particularly in America and the UK, is what parents can do is to instill a strong Jewish identity. A strong Jewish identity helps Jewish students kind of understand when they're coming across an ideology that is corrosive and that is, you know, inconsistent with their understanding of right and wrong. You know, there's a phrase that nature abhors a vacuum, right? When Jewish students enter university without being conversant in Jewish life, Jewish culture, Jewish law, Jewish ritual observance, the Torah, I think they're going to be more susceptible not only to the possibility that they will adopt or support these radical ideologies, but that they'll feel unprepared. They won't have the rhetorical tools to combat them, right? They'll be kind of going into a battle without arms. So I think that's, you know, the one kind of big picture thing they can do. And as you mentioned, you know, my organization, CAMERA, we have a very large campus department, and we have, we have organizations within dozens of college campuses on the US, the UK, and other countries. And we equip those students with the knowledge of how to fight back to particularly the anti-Israel, venom that's on campus. But to get back to your question, I really think there's nothing better than instilling your child with an understanding of what Judaism is, and a strong, proud sense of their identity. That's probably the best thing they can do to be able to resist these really regressive and toxic ideologies that they're going to encounter in most Western universities.
As the saying says, we've got to know where we come from to know where we're going. Adam, before we let you go, how can we find out more about your work? Tell us where to follow you, where to follow your organization.
Sure. Our website is camera.org. The website that I co-edit is camerauk.com. I am very active on Twitter at Adam Levick. Organization that I edit, Camera UK, is at Camera UK. And our main parent organization Twitter handle is simply at Camera.org. We're very active on Facebook, also on Instagram. And, a lot of what we do is due to the tips we get from people out there who catch, errors in the media or instances of anti-Semitism. So we really like when we're tweeted or sent a message on Instagram or emailed. We really count on the support of those that follow us to do our job.
Hugely important. So if you do see something out there that raises your hackles or that looks or feels anti-Semitic, please report it to Camera. And a huge thank you to you, Adam, the co-editor of Camera UK, for coming on to Modiin and beyond today. We're going to get you back in the future, that's for sure. But waiting patiently after we hear from Netta is our entertainment guru, Yael Kinab.
ouch, ha, la, ouch, ha, la, ouch, 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 la, ouch, 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 la, ouch, 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 la, ouch, 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 la. Look at me, I'm a beautiful creature. I don't care about your modern time preacher. Welcome boys, too much noise, I will teach ya. Pum pum po, pum pum po. Hey, I think you forgot that I play. My teddy was running away. The Barbie got something to say. Hey, 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 hey. My summer says leave me alone. I'm taking my Pikachu home. You're stupid just like you're smart. Wonder Woman, don't you ever forget. You're divine and he's about to regret. He's a buck up, I'm not your toy, not your toy. You stupid boy, stupid boy. I'll take you down, now make you watch me. Dancer with my ghost on the motherfucker beat. Not your I need a boo bop, don't you go in the play, I'm eating a bar now. I need a boo bop, don't you go in the play. Shake, go long, wedding bells ringing, go long, money man bling bling. I don't care, but you're still fine, baby. Pum pum go, pum pum go. Wonder Woman, don't you ever forget. You're divine and he's about to regret. He's a buck up, I'm not your toy, not your toy. You stupid boy, stupid boy. I'll take you down, now make you watch me. Dancer with my ghost on the motherfucker beat. I'll take you now, with me now, boy. I'm not your toy, you stupid boy. I'll take you down, now make you watch me. Dancing with my dolls on the motherfucker beat. I'm not your toy, look at me, I'm a beautiful creature. I don't care what your modern time brings. Not your toy, not your toy, not your toy, not your toy, toy. Not your toy, not your toy, not your toy, toy.
On Radio Modiin, and from the 22nd of November, we will be coming to you in a new time slot. Yes, you can wake up to us every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. So bring your coffee, bring your good vibes for Modiin and beyond, and always bringing the good vibes is our resident entertainment guru, one Yael Kinar. Yael, Shavua Tov, lots to talk about.
Shavua Tov, my friends. We have so much to discuss.
We do have so much to discuss. Now, earlier we had in Justine Friedman, we were talking about looking after your body so you can age gracefully, which of course means a segue to Madonna. What is going on with the train smash that is Madonna? Please clue us in.
Well, there's to do and not to do, and I think we referenced it last time. I don't want a Madonna bash. She was early on one of the first, women empowerment, do what feels good, ladies, and we are thankful to her for that. At 64, she may be trying too hard, tweaking a little too much to the point that she's A, not very recognizable, B, a little easy to make fun of, because it's not so cool when you are still trying to be topless and scandalous and provocative, which isn't to say you can't age gracefully, and even age gracefully with tweaks and having work done. We have beloved Jane Fonda at 84, who was very open about the fact that she has partaken in the options that medical science has made available. But she looks good, and she looks like not your average 84-year-old, but there's a spectrum. So one must choose where to land on that, I would say.
I mean, where do you land with the drinking out of the dog bowl? At what age do you say, listen, maybe licking the dog bowl and drinking out of it is just just a smidgen too far? But we have Madonna, and then we have the Jennifers, Lopez, Garner, Aniston. I mean, talk about the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, these are ladies. I don't know, do you have to be named Jennifer to look like these ladies?
It's the rule. You must. No, you can also be named Gwyneth, quite frankly. That works as well. So, Jennifer Aniston is 53. She also does not look like one's average 53-year-old. These are professionals who are paid to look a certain way. And part of that is a chef and a trainer and working out and keeping, being well hydrated and visiting a dermatologist. And there's, as I said, a range from people who get a little Botox and filler or people who have full facelifts. But there is so much pressure on them to look young, and especially, as always, on the women, because let us not forget that Tom Cruise, who's 60, just starred in a remake of Top Gun, but his original co-star, Kelly McGillis, who is 65, was not cast as the love interest because she looks 65. Now, Tom is 60 and may have also had some assistance in keeping his 60 fabulous, and his hair is still raven. So it is hard on the ladies there's a lot of pressure, I think, to look a certain way. And because it's so common to have the filtering and the magazines, and it's hard for us to even gauge, is this what a 50-year-old looks like, and a 60-year-old and a 70-year-old in real life? And we have Cher, who's 76, and in a relationship with a man 40 years her junior.
And then you have somebody like George Clooney, who's like a fine Chanel suit or a good whiskey, just gets better with age. You know what is interesting? I don't know if you watch Outlander, but the star of Outlander, Sam Heughan, he plays Jamie, the king of all men, Fraser. He's just written his memoirs, and he speaks quite openly about starving himself to fit in with Hollywood, and only once his career took off that he learned about nutrition and exercise, but he gave quite illuminating insight into the pressure on men as well. But segueing as one does from aging, we had a big simcha this weekend, a big wedding, and we're going to be speaking about engagements and weddings and all kinds of simchot, our favorite thing to talk about. Who got married? Tell us, give us all the koch.
Okay, well, the Trump family hosted the wedding of Tiffany Trump, who is Donald's youngest daughter. She's 29. Her mother is Marla Maples. And of course, they have the huge Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. So it was a large event. And she married a man of Lebanese descent, a billionaire. You didn't think he was going to be a pauper, did you? So they made the choice to have Elie Saab, who is a Lebanese American designer, make all the many multiple gowns for mother, daughter, sister-in-law Ivanka, whose Hebrew name is Yael when she converted, just saying. And so that was a multi-day to-do. He proposed with a $1.5 million ring when Papa was still in the White House. And they met in Mykonos in Greece and a certain Lindsay Lohan's nightclub, which was the place to be. So I don't think her parents were necessarily a model of long-standing love relationships, but we wish them the best, and it certainly looked beautiful.
As we would say in Yiddish, that her father looked a bit verkrimpt this weekend.
He has a lot going on. He also has announced that he will have a big announcement on Tuesday. So I don't know if it's just going to be about the Sheva Brachot. I doubt it. So it was important for him to make sure everyone was all smiles, and Melania, the current wife, former first lady, maybe first lady again, who knows? We do not cover politics in this segment.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out soon enough on Twitter. But now, our favorite subject is royals. Royals of all kinds. And today we're not talking Britain, and we're not talking former exiled royals. We're talking royals that we don't normally get to hear about. So
we are here to highlight the other royals, and it is
are
true.
there any other royals? Apparently,
there are plenty. There are Spanish and Japanese and Jordanian and Dutch, lots. So we can start with a teeny tiny country called Luxembourg, which is really one of the smallest countries in the world. But their Princess Alexandra got engaged. She's 31 years old, and her brother Prince Louis was engaged last year but called off the engagement. So there'll be a big wedding in the spring of 2023, and they are still well connected with all the cool royals. I don't know if the British royals will make an appearance at this wedding, but there's enough of peripheral Danish. There's other countries that have their own royals that intermingle, and I think there is a hierarchy in that. You know, Wills and Kate aren't going to attend every random seventh cousin's princess wedding, but I think it will still be a beautiful affair. And we also, on the subject of love and royalty and possibly giving up one for the other, is we have the princess in Norway who has given up the throne. She was married, had a few kids, and got divorced and met Guru to the Stars, an American in LA who does readings and healings and crystals and has an entire alternative medicine brand, which is making a lot of money, also beloved by Gwyneth Paltrow and other stars. And they have fallen in love, and she has given up the throne to follow him to Hollywood. We wish her the best.
I'm spotting a trend here. I mean, you know, regardless of who exiles themselves to Hollywood, and that seems to be sparking a trend, at least for us who are royal watchers, the fashion will be fabulous.
Always. It's hard to replace the actual crown tiaras. I mean, Hollywood has its red carpets, and New York has the Met Gala, and there's the Academy Awards, and there's a lot of opportunities to play dress up and look fabulous. But man, nothing like actual royal jewels and headgear to give the full effect. So I don't know how they're so easily discarding that for a life of more freedom, but I guess sometimes the crown is heavy.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown. But we've got some real fashion moments and headgear moments to look forward to. On the 23rd of November, we will have King Charles hosting his first state dinner with the president of my old country, Cyril Ramaphosa from South Africa. You know, we just care about what Princess Catherine will be wearing. I mean, let's be honest here.
It's true. Everyone keeps skipping right over Queen Consort Camilla. We don't care. She has been, you know, putting together looks and is very appropriate in her attire. But yes, all eyes always on Catherine, and she does not disappoint. She was always on point, and now she's keeping things even tighter and chicer and more fabulous. And it's really hard to fault her for anything. I did have a yawn moment last week when it was 50 Shades of Camel Beige, but we will allow her that. She still looks fantastic.
As you say, she barely puts a very well shot and carefully monitored by us who do fashion watch foot wrong. And also somebody who never puts a foot wrong is our resident entertainment guru, one Yael Kinar, who will be joining us in the future on a Tuesday morning. So we'll be having our morning coffee, catching up on our entertainment deets. We're sure to have a whole plethora of things to talk to. But thank you for joining me on Modiin and beyond. A big thank you to our guests today, Justine Friedman, clinical dietitian and mindset mentor, Adam Levick, the co-editor of Camera UK. You just heard from her, Yael Kinar, our entertainment guru. And behind the scenes, Michael, my engineer, waving. You can't see him, only I can see him. Don't forget to join me on the 22nd of November for the morning edition of Modiin and Beyond. It has been an absolute pleasure today. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy a little In Excess with Mustafa. I'm Rolene Marks, and we'll see you soon.
All veils and misty, streets are blue. Almond looks that chill divine. Some silken moment goes on forever, and we're leaving broken hearts behind. Mystify me, mystify